Will Turkey and Syria reconciling pave the way to ending the Syrian conflict? Finding common ground with Ankara can help Damascus solve many problems, including the U.S. occupation of its territories. Against the wishes of Washington, both the Syrian and Turkish leaderships seem to be coming closer to re-establishing ties. After an 11-year break in relations, could such a rapprochement pave the way to closing the final chapter of the brutal Syrian war by breaking the current stalemate? According to Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu, the diplomat could meet his Syrian counterpart, Faisal Mikdad, as early as February to further conversations regarding reopening ties between both governments. Despite protest from U.S. State Department spokesperson Ned Price, who said that the U.S. does not support countries upgrading their relations or expressing support to rehabilitate the brutal dictator Bashar Assad, Ankara and Damascus continue their journey towards normalization. The first major step taken towards rebuilding ties occurred in late December, when the defense ministers of both Turkey and Syria were reported to have met in Moscow. What emerged from this meeting was Ankara's verbal insistence on respecting Syrian territorial integrity, solving the ongoing refugee crisis and defending against all terror groups that threaten Turkey's border. This has caused a lot of speculation regarding the conditions that will be put in place for a proper restoration of ties, from both sides. From the Turkish government's perspective, rapprochement with Damascus could bring with it a number of benefits, including combating the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces, SDF, which are primarily controlled by the YPG group, considered to be a terrorist organization by Ankara. Late last year, in November, Turkey launched an Air Force campaign, branded Operation Klasord, which was aimed at striking YPG targets in northeastern Syria. According to the Turkish government, the YPG represents a threat to national security. It was accused of masterminding a bombing attack in central Istanbul last year, and the air operation was framed as Turkey's response. Also on Ankara's stated agenda is a third ground incursion into northern Syria, which Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan stated could occur at any time, aimed at establishing a 30-mile deep security strip in the north of Syria and Iraq, along the Turkish border. Turkey currently gives shelter to over 3.6 million Syrian refugees, making it the world's largest refugee-hosting nation, and is now being urged to do something about repatriating some of those refugees who can return to their home country, following the restoration of peace in war-torn Syria. A potential normalization of ties between Damascus and Ankara could hold the key towards negotiating not only a broader settlement to the conflict in Syria, but also agreements on the issues of refugees and combating the Kurdish armed groups inside Syrian territory. For Damascus, Bashar Assad's government has been unable to launch any significant military efforts since 2019, with Turkey's military entrenchment inside Syria's Idlib province preventing the Syrian Arab Army, SAA, and its allies from defeating the al-Qaeda offshoot, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which largely controls the area. Turkey also ran 2 incursions into the north of Syria, first in the west in 2018, and then the east in 2019, occupying strips of Syrian territory, alongside a proxy force called the Syrian National Army, SNA. In addition to seeking a Turkish withdrawal from pockets of Syrian territory in the north, a persisting problem for Damascus is the de facto U.S. occupation of a third of the country. The American military, along with its Kurdish proxy force, the SDF, occupies northeastern Syria, where the most fertile agricultural lands, along with 90% of the country's oil resources, are located. While attacking either Idlib or the northeast would likely bring the SAA into direct conflict with either the US or Turkey, a normalization of ties with Ankara could dramatically change the equation. If the Syrian government is to adopt the Turkish position, regarding the SDF being composed of terrorist groups and representing a security threat, hypothetically an agreement could be reached whereby any future Turkish offensive in the north could be followed by a Syrian offensive to cross the Euphrates River and liberate its territory surrounding the Al Omar oil fields. In both previous Turkish offensives into Syria, the U.S. forces that were stationed there to back their Kurdish allies exited the territory altogether, likely fearing an unnecessary confrontation with a fellow NATO power. The U.S. military also has no official legal right to be at war in Syria, as no congressional approval was given for occupation of territory or war efforts. If Turkey invades, the U.S. will likely withdraw from northeastern Syria again and then leave an opportunity open for the Syrian government.